Okay, so what you need to do is, so the quotations plan, so I take a copy of the template I have given, take a copy. So I make copy and take a copy. So then I took a copy and get different. So you can save it to your OneDrive. So I think you don't have allowed to save it the drive I shared. So you can save it your own drive or whatever your machine. So then you can start completing. This is the template, right? This template you need to fill basically all the blue color items you need to fill it. So this is IEEE standard document. So the quotations plan that is developed based on the IEEE standards, right? So take it a copy of it. So then you can start from the project name. So project name, what is the project name? So taxi booking application that's supposed to develop and test, right? Now, then you can put your date. So date will be what is basically your the test plan completion date, but as for the moment, I will put it today's date. Right? So that's you have to do the very first, right? So then you need to move to the. So let me show the content first, right? You will have a section called introduction. The introduction is basically give a basic introduction about what you are going to do, right? The second one is scope, right? So what kind of scope you are going to test, and out inside that you will have in scope and outer scope both. Then the third one, your test strategy. So how we are going to test, right? So the strategy basically contain your risk-based testing approach, right? So that what we discuss. So then level of testing means how much of in depth you are going to test and what kind of different testing types and how we are going to do that. Little bit detail of what we have identified part of risk-based testing approach. Then you have to little bit further elaborate how we are going to attend it. Let's see how we can type. The fourth section is test approach. So here you have the testing strategy. So we are going to figure it out what type of testing you are going to select, and that will include this test. That's for test strategy is how we are going to do different activities, basically test design, test execution, defect reporting, status reporting, what are the entry exit criteria, right? All those things you have to put it part of approach. So basically here you will be going to do the test design approach, how we are going to design your test cases. So then how we are going to execute your test cases. At the execution, what is the entry criteria and what are the exit criteria? That's what we are going to put it. So then we have to put in defect management. So what as a part of testing, we will be reporting defects. So then you need to mention how we are going to maintain defects. So then you need to put your team structure. So what kind of team? So this is basically you have to derive based on your estimation, right? And roles and responsibilities of each team and your schedule, right? So I just brief how to derive a schedule, right? So you have to use this schedule here and you have to put a schedule and then your test reporting. And part of this reporting, your reporting approach, matrices, and test environment will come. What are the test environment that you need to have to test that and all the dependencies and assumptions that will impact your test. So that basically these are the areas that you are going to cover, that all those topics I think we discussed during session, but these are the areas you need to cover. Okay, we'll go by one there, right? So now we have completed the first page, that's done. So then you need to uh, decide purpose of this document, right? First thing is purpose of this document, right? So here it has been already mentioned. I think you can keep this, but if you want, you can write your own word and different detail explanation. But what I have mentioned here is, so let me, so use the quotations plan document to describe the testing strategy and overall approach that will derive the testing of the testing of the project. But you had mentioned project. What is the project? Okay. Let's see. booking. That you have to mention, right? So that you will, right. So that will be your project that you need to include. So I think that could be sufficient. I think rest you can either revert or whatever you want. I just avoid to keep it. But project overview you have to include. So you have to give a small summary of the project, right? But I think you can if you can't derive anything, you can just copy paste about the business case as well, right? So but not exactly till match as it is, but you can do that as well if we are struggling. But I expect you to have a better wording, right? Okay. So let me take some sample. The same content you can get it, but I'm just typing the same for the moment. So so what? But this is my business case. But this has to be little bit out of the business case. Business case is your business problem, right? So but here you need to write it little bit about the project. So I just put it here. So that's basically maybe one para would be sufficient, and one line even would be sufficient. But you need to give a very brief, clear that what we are going to do. So this is what you're going to develop, right? So this is the reason, right? So I will keep it as it is. So then, so you need to move to the your scope area, right? That's the most important thing. So in scope, so you need to clearly describe the scope. So if I go back to the point, so taxi booking app. So here, so I think during the session, right? I think during the one session, we have identified 4 screens, right? With that 4 screens, we uh, use to derive the test design and test estimation and all those things, right? So I think that you could be able to use that. Let me take that screen again. Give me a second. Yeah, this is a full screen we considered for all these our activities. You can use these full screens, right? So you can list down all the functionalities. So what are all the functionalities available in these 4 screens? So select select the tag pick up and drop off points using Google Map for given location, right? Select different what taxi type from the different type of taxi options provided and book the taxi and select the payment methods based on the available payment methods and provide the payment method details uh, and complete. So basically, you can get that list down this all these functionalities, and then you can uh, uh, list it down there, right? So that you have to do. So I will sample. I will show a sample. So this is the one we discussed in the class. So let me take this. Okay, this is our working document. So you can basically type here in scope. I will give a sample. So, so functional and non-functional testing or the following user journey, right? Because at this point we haven't discussed about our all the testing types. Because of that, we can just put it. Uh, what are the functionalities you are going to cover? So basically, you can here you can cover what all the functionalities of the application, right? So if get it all these functionalities, this will be sample. Let me get it. Give it a sample. Okay, these are a set of sample based on the script, right? So you can write it. This you have to write all the functionalities that is available, that is described in here. So that is what you have to perform here. You can put it here, right? So that's what you need to do. So here we will not detail down what type of testing. So because of that, you can have a generic word like functional testing or following user journeys. And you have to list down the user journeys. I have this down sample, but you have to take from the location. Okay. So then outer scope. So what are the outer scope? So that's one tricky thing. So which one we are not going to test? So basically that you can put it as you wish. This is just assignment, but in real world, you have to select, you have to identify what are the things that we are going to know, that we are not going to test. So things right now you are not going to uh, look at translatability, right? So it's something like that. Think you have de-scope that. So then you can say translatability will be considered as an outer scope. So that's something you can put it, right? But you need to figure it out few things, right, for your assignment. But make should be valid as well. So this will be one. So I'll add few translatability one thing. So then you can say so you might have to generate scenarios based on the uh, flows, and you can say uh, sometimes in some case if you don't have access to the payment gateway, right? So you need to have access to the payment gateway if you're going to complete the transaction. So you can say integration with payment gateway or something like that. You can say uh, payment gateway functionality. You will integrate it, but you will not test the payment gateway functionality. Payment gateway functionality is out of scope because it will be a different testing, right? Payment gateway functionality. And and you, because it's your integration point and you are not going to test the payment gateway functionality. You might test only just to up to that point. And even Google Maps. So Google Map itself might have a lot of defects, a lot of functionalities. So you might not test that. You might only use the Google Map just to check whether you can pick the location. So Google Map functionality. So you can say it's out. Basically, you can say a little bit detailed testing of payment, testing of Google Map function, something like that, right? So these things you have to decide, right? What we are not going to test, but in a very clear, we translatability we can consider out as for these kind of outside features, right? Outside your application features, you can basically make it out of scope. So that you have to do. Then you have to figure it out your testing strategy. So I think that we discuss in detail, right? So in our class, so you have to enter the set of product list, right? So that should you need to insert here? What are the key product lists that you come across during your thing? So I think we discussed this many times. So I will take it, whatever the things that we discussed during the class. I'll put it here and we'll show. So basically, we discuss many things like this, right? So I take it from my notes from the class during the class. So integration with Google Maps might not work properly. So integration part we are going to test, but Google Map functionality we immediately make it out of scope because of that no problem, right? So for that you need perform. So it will be very high risk. Then you have to perform integration test. Functionality of taxi booking workflow might not work. So entire taxi booking workflow might not work. So it's a very high risk. The taxi booking workflow, if it is not going to work, it's not going to work at all. So you can do that. So this will be your strategy, right? This will be functional test. This will be your strategy. Security vulnerabilities might exist with payment gateway integration. So we are not going to test payment gateway, but we are going to take the integration with the payment gateway, right? So that's all. So then you have to do the performance security test, right? Concurrent use access of text booking. Concurrent use access is very critical because many people will access same time, same location. Multi-browsers, right? So then you need to do the cross-browser testing. So, but multi-browser testing might not be critical high because you can say it's work for a few browsers, but not for other browsers, something like that. Because of that, I make it medium. Application, multiple mobile devices. So device compatible testing is a critical one, but it's not a critical one. It's a medium because definitely it will work some devices, but not all. The UI themes, right? It might not be consistent, but it's okay. It's not a high one, medium one, because if UI terms not properly developed, that's even people can use it because of the risk is very low. So these immediately you can find out many more like this types few, but you can add, but at least keep it five, right? So I here I mentioned seven, but you can add few more. So one thing I'm just thinking, you can say uh, this will be access GPS and all these things, right? Integration with the GPS and all those things might not work properly. So be integration that you might have to, because your mobile device will contact GPS, the network, and you can say you might use various different networks, right? Some people will have 4G, some people will have 3G still, or some people will have now 5G. Even it's under testing. Somebody might use. So various different network bandwidths, right? So because of the various bandwidths, some bandwidths might work, some bandwidths might not work. We don't know. So because of that, we can see as a risk, right? Sometimes 5G it might not work, even the latest, right? So because of that, we can say there's a risk. The application might not work. Application might not work for different network bandwidth. Something. So then this is little bit either high or medium. We can say if needed high because it's anyway critical. Or either we can consider medium. It's okay. One of either put one, don't put both. So then here you can say so network bandwidth test. So you need to do that. So similarly, you can introduce many different test types, right? So you have to list down. So at least five need to be included, right? So to make it a proper one. So then this is your risk-based testing strategy. You need to put it. So then you know your testing types: integration, functional, security, performance, cross-browser, device test, compatibility of UI, and network bandwidth. Right? All those you should put it here. So that's the next step. So all your testing types, you have to put it here. And you have to brief it, how we are going to do. You have to brief little bit. Okay, so it will be something like that. This, okay. It will be like this. So you can use testing. So functional testing, you have to do the perform functional for all features or something like that. So here we didn't autoscope it, right? So because of that, you need to do say maybe what you are going to do, what kind of security testing you are going to do. You can say your vulnerability assessment. Or something like that you will have to do. So you might select cross-browser testing only Edge, Chrome, and Firefox. Here we can say iOS and Android. And UI testing, you know, and bandit testing, you can say 3G, 4G, what, something like that. That you have to give a small description. So what kind of thing you are going to do. So then you need to detail. So what are the functional testing out of these? And how we are going to do and how we are going to do the regression and how we are going to do the non-functional. You have to detail down this. So that until here, are you clear what you are going to do, or you need to have any questions? You can ask, right? Because this you have to complete it. So because it's you're coming to the end and the submission date, right? If you have anything, you just ask. So you need to put it there. So I'll give sample data here. So, but you have to have something like this. So 10, 20 user journeys. So something like that, right? But you need to identify how many user journeys, right? Maybe 20, 25, 30. And test design techniques will be used for test. Something very, you have to give a brief, right? So and you have to tell how you are going to do the regression and you are going to other testing. So you have to give that how we are going to do the for non-functional cross browser and all those things you can give. So something like this you can do. Let me, yes, we'll do something like this. Yeah. So functional testing, performance testing, cross-browser testing, and or rest of all your integration device testing, you can edit. You can little detail down. So you just put a one single phrase, right? So you have a little detail down. So I'm not going to do that. Even you can use ChatGPT and find out this, right? I am not going to detail down, but define your own word, right? Maybe it doesn't matter either you Google it, get it, or ChatGPT use it and use that GT or Copilot or whatever the LLM and get it. That's fine, but put it your on something, right? So you can detail down all the testing types, maybe at least little bit of information. So that is required. Uh, so so that's up to the test level of testing. So then we will be moving the new part, the test approach. So I will take a new page break. Okay. So here you have to clearly down put it to your test design approach. You have to mention what type of testing design approach you are going to use for your document. So that's very essential. So I will put it some sample here. So you can say these testing types, right? Following test design technique will be used: design comparison, decision tree. So you can decide because we have given, I have described few test design techniques, right? State transition diagrams. So then you can say error guessing techniques, something like that you can put. Okay? So these are the techniques you are going to use. So you have to write it there. So then if you want, you can further say derive mind map first and then use about its design techniques which and develop the test cases. Right? Something like that. And then you can say you will be develop positive and negative test case as well. So then you can say you all edge cases we also cover or something like that. So you can say you have to tell how we are going to write your test cases. What are the design techniques we are going to use? If we are going to use additional techniques or mind map, or if you're going to use pairwise testing, you can use that as well. So and you can use little bit how we are going to develop test cases. You can say positive, negative, and edge cases, something like that, right? So you have to write this. I hope this is clear, right? If it is not clear, let me know. So then I can little bit further elaborating. This actually realize what we have learned so far, everything, right? So that knowledge is required to answer your even final exam. So that's why I have given this as assignment. So this will help you to recap all, and you will be get ready for your final exam as well. That you make life easy. Plus, you can score very greater marks very easily than other subjects, right? So that will be helpful for your GPA as well, right? Okay. So next, so I will be moving to the next point. Okay, there's a question. Do we need to type in italic the document as format? No, no. So let me say, no need to don't make it italic. So it need to be professional. So why I have make it italic here is those are the areas you have to amend and or update or write it from the scratch, right? So because of that, you don't make it italic. These are the editable area, right? So headings and all those things, you know it edit. So that's why I make it italic to understand these editable. So then you need to clearly, so now your execution test. Yes, during the test execution, you need to make it, you need to very clear how we are going to military criteria are going to define, right? So that's very key essential thing you need to do. So you have to clearly say the same if you want, and but don't make it italic. And the entry criteria refers to desirable condition. So I just put it there. And the entry criteria are flexible marks. If they are not met, testing will assess the risk, identify the mitigation action, and provide recommendations. That's something. So that you can integrate areas. So I will give set of integrate areas. I already given sample integrate area. You can use same or you can use something different as well. Okay, there's a question. What you're asking? Do we need to add our index number and the details of the yes? Basically, what you could do is because I could under because you if you has to submit it to the LMS, but I think uh, would why okay I will make it something easy two options I will give. So one thing you can put it. I think you can put your uh, name here. So we'll make it. Um, so ideally we can give it. So I will develop by maybe do something like that. Put it here and your identity, your number, right? So I think that make it easy to understand. So, but I could be able to figure it out, but fine. But make it very clear. We'll use like this, something like this. It's a good point. We'll back to the point. We So here you need to tell which. So first thing, test environment should be available, right? So should be available. Test data should be available. It is available. Code has been merged and successful, and so so this has to be merged and deployed. So it has to be deployed, right? So you will not test the code. It has to be deployed. Development team has completed unit testing, right? So with maybe 80% pass rate or something like that. You can put it like that, right? So you can define the number. It doesn't matter because this you can put whatever industry number, so you can still one number. But it should be above 80%. It can't be go below 80. So 90 or 100 you can make mark. Test cases and scripts are complete. Yeah, because you need to make sure your automation scripts or test cases are uh, developed, reviewed, and approved. Approved by Q project team or QA lead or QA manager, whoever, whatever, right? So these are the conditions. If none of these conditions are achieved, you will not be starting. So the testing. We can put it one more thing. All known issues are notified. Because if in case there are known issues, there was certain issue because here you mentioned only 80% pass rate at unit test cases because the rest is remaining 20%, then there might have already known defects. Then you need to inform. You should not test and identify known defects because of its known, you should know it, right? So that will be this thing. And these are the basic entry criteria you can use. So, but if you have your own few different ones, you can edit. I don't. It doesn't matter, but it should be relevant, right? You can't add irrelevant, unwanted entry criteria, but something relevant to testing, right? You can edit. Okay, so then we'll move to the exit criteria. I hope the entry criteria is clear. Exit criteria, we can put it the same. I'll put it some sample exit criteria. So then we'll discuss. Okay. So this same content, so I just make it the color change. Right? So these are very clear exit criteria. Any given test plan should include, right? 100% test script should pass. Right? Exit should be executed. So before winding your all the test cases, you should have executed at least once, unless you can't come. And 90%, 5% pass rate, these are industry standards, right? But if you want this 95% increase, you can make it 90. That doesn't matter. That's your organization decision. But some organization, it might take it like 90, but the current industry standard is 95. But if somebody want make it 100, can make it 100. That's the organization or your own decision. But current industry standard is at least 90% should pass when you are completing your testing. And no open critical and high defects. That's mandatory. There should be any critical high severity defects when you are completing your testing. Because that's a clear sign of criteria. Uh, there will be sometimes some people say there will be another exit criteria. Uh, Total of medium. and low defects less than 10%, something like that. Some organization use something like that, but it's not necessary. But if you want, you can add something like that as so total medium and low defects count should less than 10% of all the defects that you reported. Something like that, right? Total open, right? This is again open, not the closed ones, whatever the remaining ones, right? Oh, and this is very essential. Remaining defects either cancel or documented as change requests of future. So you need to document all the defects that are open. And it need to be informed to your client or your whatever the person we are going to deliver. He should know this application comes with this known defects. So all expected and actual results are kept and documented. All test matrices captured and based on the report. All defects logs and defect tracker, whatever the defect tracker or whatever technique you are going to use. Test environment is clean up. So these are not mandatory, but I think this is very mandatory one. Everyone, this is also mandatory point. This also mandatory. This also mandatory. So very clear exit criteria. So you need to should have, right? So, but have it at least them and few more based on your understanding. But you need to have clearly defined. So if none of exit criteria is not achieved, you can't certify. Then you can say you have to further test and further develop or whatever the recommendation should comes. I hope this is very clear, right? So do you want any more the further clarifications? No. Okay. So then let's move to defect management. So let me put some content there. I think defect management, you can put it more content because in your slides is as it is, it's containing, right? So you can say something like this. It's expected to test to execute all scripts on each cycle described above. That the defects will be tracked through the defect tracker or spreadsheet. But one thing, right? I do have to mention whatever it is testers as well the open defects, retest, and force them. So this, and you can say these are the criteria. Critical. So what are the critical defects? Functionality is blocked, no testing can be proceed. And functionality is not usable and there are no workaround. So that's very clear. If it is high, there's a no workaround. But if it is a medium, it's functionality issues, but there's a workaround. You have a workaround to perform the activity. Low is unclear error message, go cosmetic error, or small UI issues. So you can put, and this is part of your slide as well. Let me show that thing as I remembered. It was there here. Not this one. Included second slide. I remember. Yeah, not in this slide. I think it was there in your second slide. Or I did it in first slide. I'm not sure. I just managed the slides. It was in this slide. I will show that you can just copy this slide. Nothing to do. Thank you. But just to have understanding why you are doing it, right? No, I think it was in the very first slide, I guess. Sorry. it's in this line. Yeah, this is the one. So you can just have it this entire content, right? Severity, priority. You can have it. So I think it's very clear. You can have it. Rather, whatever way you want, you can have it. It's table. So you make it table. So because its template is table, but you can have it this content. Yeah, like this, right? So that you have to, right? So mention. But what here content is good. So keep it the same table and you can have it priority and severity both. Okay. So then you need to have your team structure. So that is, I think we did the estimation, right? Based on that you can put it, but I am put it some number. Maybe one manager, two leads, three senior engineers, and five engineers. Basically, it should have a pyramid like this, right? So you can't have five managers and nobody going to believe it, right? One engineer, something like it won't happen, right? Always it should be a pyramid, right? You can't say even one manager and five leads, something like that can't be. So it should be maybe two leads, the three senior engineers or four senior engineers, maybe six, seven engineer, something like it should have a pyramid like this, right? So the scientific, right? Unless this will can't be accepted, right? So it has to be like this. So this will be decided based on your estimation. But here I don't want to do estimation right here because it's a different exercise. But make it scientific, acceptable number. You don't put it like 10 engineers, nobody going to look like this, right? Nobody going to believe. Right? It has to be scientific team size, maybe 10, 12 team members. It won't exceed than that such kind of application, right? This kind of application, if you want to if you are going to test and if you need 550, 100 or something size team members, nobody is going to believe it even, right? So it may be 8, 10, 12, 13, something less than 50, 50, right? Now, so it's not a major tough app to test, right? It's just a standalone app. Because of that, it has to be realistic. So ideally, you need to derive this number using the estimation. But here I am okay, whatever your number putting, but it has to be realistic, right? If it is not realistic, this part will not get marks, right? Okay, so then you have to tell based on your roles. If you are going to tell it here, if you are going to zero, you make it, don't make it zero, but then you remove this. If you are not have any leads, and if you are going to do like this, that's okay. So you can go it like that, but then you don't need to mention the roles here. But if we are going to tell, if you are going to put a resource here, then you must describe the role of the resource here. What is QA manager is doing, what is QA lead is doing, what is senior engineer is doing, what is QA engineer is doing. Clearly, you have to inform that, right? So you can take this content from, I think one of my slide, I think it's the third slide. Yeah. Not third slide, like the fourth slide. So, yes, here you can see roles, different roles. Yes, here. So you have manager roles and typical tester roles. Take this, we have to emit, right? The manage, if you are putting manager and same for the leads, this is not acceptable. But if you are putting some managers, so then let me brief here, something like that. So under the manager, if you are putting this role, oh, wait, right? If you are putting this high level document vendors, estimate planning, so you need to tell the lead, then something, you can't say extract like this, right? High level document maintenance. So then you have to tell estimation plan, adapt planning. You can, for a manager, if you are telling this, then for a lead, you have to tell support. Support, support manager on estimate, right? That's something like that. Lead will be play a little lower level to the manager, right? So support manager, provide information to manager to make decisions, right? Something like that. So monitoring and control. So we need to very carefully, if you are putting the lead and segregate the leads and manager role. Same thing you have to do. You can get the content from slide 4 for the typical tester, but you have to segregate. So if you're putting this as it is for a engineer, then you have to little bit. So you can put the so review and review, you can, so this task you can put the engineer, senior engineer, drop it here. So analyze, review, and assessing requirement and uses. That same you can put it both, identify, document, and test condition. So you can say for him, review, develop test cases, and provide feedback. Something like that. So that you have to do it your own. So I am not going to, you don't have as it is in the slide. So that's your own work, but you have to make it like this, segregate. The same, you can't put it as senior and engineer. Because senior will be little higher role, but engineering role. So he will review whatever the engineer will do. So because of that, you have to have some advancement of engineer work. Right? So you can say acquiring and preparing. So review test data. Right? Review identified test data. Something like that, right? So you have to make it little advanced. Right? So something like that you need to make it. So that's how you need to put it your stuff. So you can get it from here, but you have to do a small enhancement. So based on the 4 roles. Here I only given for 2 roles. So purposefully I didn't give segregated because I know that question coming in the assignment. So then you have to do your own work, right? So that's why I didn't make it differentiate during the session. Okay. So do it that way. That's part of your part, right? So that make sure you do that. So if you have any questions, you can ask it now. Unless you can get it done, even you can use this, you Google it and find it out, but it has to be clearly segregated data. You should have your own consensus, even if you're copy, right? I don't care whether you're going to copy or not, but if you are not doing it conscious, then it will be a problem. Whatever thing, whether you copied or not, I don't worry. I don't have issue, but it has to be a consciously do that, right? If you are copied and something wrong, and you will not get any mark. I hope this is clear, right? Okay. So then you need to put a schedule here. Actually, we develop the schedule, so I think you can get it from there, but you need to have some believable. I don't want to develop from the scratch and estimate and do it here, but something below can be acceptable schedule you have to put it, right? So from the work, but we had, and I think I shared that Excel sheet as working document, Excel sheet as well. So put it some believable plan, right? Hope this is clear, right? So I'm not going to do it anything here, but since I will share this Excel sheet with you, so build up some believable schedule, right? If you remember. So I think since I shared it, I don't have it here now. So you can use it. So then the test report. So basically you can have, what are the test different reports? So you can say daily test execution report, right? Weekly summary report, maybe at least 2 report, right? So you can have it if you want executive deck. Executive deck. So maybe you are sharing for the CEO, so kind of things very maybe once in a time. So you can have it, but at least 2. Daily taxation report must. So this will be QA lead. Definitely will share it. Audience is the project team, everybody. Project team like right? Frequency, it's obvious daily, right? It is daily. So weekly, probably QA manager will do that. Or QA lead doesn't matter, right? Uh, so again, this is the project management team. So what is project management team? Basically, take leads, right? Technical leads or architects, project manager, business BA lead, all this or BA architect or all the senior people in the project. So they should know status. So that's weekly. The executive deck, obviously, QA manager or project manager has to develop. So then basically will be the leadership of the company, right? Organization. Maybe you can say monthly, something like that. So, but it should be scientific. You can have it executive day daily, and you can't have a daily report monthly, something like that, right? So that has to be some logical. So you can have both daily, right? Summary report and daily report. You can't like this. You have to be scientific, right? You can't make it like this, right? It won't acceptable, right? So it has to be scientific again, right? This won't work, right? If we are putting both weekly report deck and thing, then no point of, right? So there is no point of segregating. So I mentioned, right? We have 3 different type of audience. One is operational people, that's a project team. Tactical people, so that's the leadership team, sorry, management team, and executive strategic. Strategic means the leadership CEO owner of the company or whatever the very senior set of people. And at least 2 should mention this 2, or either or 3 you can add it. So this has to be included. So don't make it any blue color things. Everything should be in black. So I mark it blue just to understand you need to feel it, right? Don't do any blues. Blue, if you keep it as a blue color, then it's out of the standard and you will not get marks, right? So because of that, don't make it black entire document, right? So don't make it colorful one. So we are not doing using multicolors as well. Okay, so matrices, we just discussed few matrices. I think you need to add at least few matrices, right? And you have to divide. So I will tell few matrices. Um, so these are few, I will take it from my note. These are few matrices. So requirement clarity index, right? Number of open questions. So that's based on that we will be measuring. Defect density, number of defects, 0 lines of code, or lines of code, right? Divided by defect density. So how we are going to calculate? Now, S1 number of S1 defects will multiply by 5, number of S2 defects multiply by 3, number of S2 by 2, and S4 divided by total number of defects, something like that. Defect to remark ratio, all valid defects divided by all defects reported, because every defects will not be valid. There will be incorrect defects reported by QAT. But if there are a large number of incorrect defects reported by QA, then they have not done good job. So that defect rate, daily defect injections. These the few uh, burn down chart. Burn down chart. So that you can have, so how this the progress will progress with daily progress. So something. So these are the matrices. Google it or use ChatGPT at your own site, right? Because that at least 5 is required, right? Minimum. But these are different. One, this is for the requirement. This is for the code. Right? This about for requirement, this two about code, this two about defects. And this is about QA team, and this is about defect, and this is about the entire project, right? Everybody. So make sure you covered different type of matrices. You can Google and find out, or you can find out few more from my deck as well. Or either use your own LLM and find out. But you need to have a clear set of matrices. Matrices mean matrix, right? We are going to measure. So, right, a human, we are going to measure weight, height. Similarly, the software quality, how we are going to measure. Quality matrix. That you have to put it. So you have to put some test environment details as well. This is, you have to just put it because you don't have clear understanding at this point what is test environment, but you need to put some data. It's like this. Okay, you can say, so basically you should have understanding how the architecture, right? Any application. So there will be DB server, right? There will be application server. So at least this servers. So there might have load balancer, something like that. So these servers, you can say DB server, you will maybe use MySQL or Postgres, something like this, right? Postgres SQL or something like that, you can say, and then you can say the server. It will be Linux or Ubuntu. There's no call something called Linux, right? Ubuntu, right? Something like that. Then we can put the version, something like this, right? So application server, you can say JBoss, and it will be in Windows, whatever, something like that, right? Windows, but the Windows version, right? Windows 11 or something like that. Load balancer. So we can say this is also Ubuntu if you want. So load balancer, you can say what different type of load balancer you are going to use, and then load balancer is one, and you can say the Windows, something like that, right? So this information, at least some realistic information you have to put it. Then person who are reading can understand you know about software development, right? If you are not putting some realistic information, so that means whoever the person who is going to market for it, you don't know basics, right? That can't be happen. You should have basic understanding about how software will be deployed, right? Software can't be deployed in your own laptop, right? So it has to be in a server, right? The servers, definitely there will be certain number of servers will be required for any application, any web server, right? So then, so you need to have few more, right? So you have to say, what is your web server, right? Maybe IIS or something like. So you have to mention versions, and all this information you have to put it, right? So that has to be clear information because you can't just only put a VB and something like that. You need to have clear. So you just can't use a put web server only because there should be a DB, right? So something because of that you should have some scientific set of servers put it here. So that will give that you know something, right? If you unless you just put here and there, then it feel that you don't know anything, and then you will not get marks for this part, right? Is it clear? Or any questions so far? Okay. So if it is clear, then we will go on. So the dependency assumption also, that's again coming into your own challenge. You need to figure out your own something, right? But you can't just put dummy values, so useless data. Any project, there will be certain dependencies, certain assumptions you need to make. Think little bit. I will give some few samples to as hints, but there are certain dependencies, right? You need to figure it out. So I will give few as a sample because I can't help and providing everything, but these are few dependencies. So test data from production support team, because you need to have a set of test data. Unless you can't test, right? Because some test data you can't manufacture even, right? You need to get it from production support team or client. Sometimes it may be client. So you need to get it from whoever the person, right? Environment deployed by DevOps. Sometimes another deployment might not be done by you because you don't have that knowledge, right? Because you need to deploy these servers. So then it might be done by DevOps teams. Can't be a development team, definitely. Development team is cannot be deployed to your environment because this is a test environment. But someone independent team, why you want it? Right? So then if it is a different team, you can have it as a dependency because you have a dependency with not your own, you have a dependency with some other team, third party team, right? So then the dependency and bugs resolution, right? Regression, something. So because bug fixing, you will raise the bugs reporting, but you will not fix it. Bug fixing will done by development team. So that for your regression, bug fix is must unless you can't start regression. So these are dependencies from some other teams. You might depend on them. If DevOps team make a deploy they struggle, your testing will get delayed. If the support team or the client didn't give the test data, then you won't be able to start testing on time. Those are dependents. Depend on somebody else. If they didn't perform their work, you are in put in that problem. If development team unable to fix all the defects you face, then you can't start regression testing and your testing will be pending, right? So because of that, you can't get it blame because you are testing pending because development is struggling, right? So that because of that, it has to be clearly called it in your project plan. These are the expected dependencies for my project to start testing or continue testing. So then project manager and rest of leadership members responsible to support these items. Right? That's a must. Dependency is a must, right? I hope you cleared how to write dependencies, right? Is it clear? Or if you want further clarification. So, but you need to have few more dependencies. Don't only limit to this, what I'm writing here. We get it out three, at least two more, right? Five, right? Five dependencies. I need five at least. Right? So then assumptions. What is assumption? So because of that, because we expect test data from production support team. So test data sharing by prod team will not have legal proof. Because some of the test data will have P2 data. So I hope you know P1, P2, right? So because the personal data, so so I think in the Sri Lankan context, I don't think there we have a legal access, but any software that we are going to develop in the industry, there's an industry standard, we have to comply with the European data governance structure. So that right now the Europe has a very strong IT and IT security and data governance structure. That's the very world best right now we have because they are protecting the individuals. So that they, unfortunately we have a data governance law very recently approved, but it's not a very strong one. It's not developed some user perspective. It developed for the organizational business perspective. But the European data governance structure is very user perspective. Nobody can harm our data, misuse, right? So it's that's a very strong one. So actually they are building a very strong set of governance structure right now that I good to know because even for the biometrics and all those things because it's on our rights, right? So unfortunately, country like us, we don't have any governance structure for the biometrics kind of things, right? Anybody can misuse it because once you lose the biometrics, you will lose your life. That's it. If you, because the biometrics very unique to for anybody. If somebody capture your biometric, make even giving a NIC, that's what the argument right now. Even giving a NIC, biometrics should not capture. Unfortunately, unfortunately, it's going to happen here. None of none of countries are given use biometrics for NIC because it's very extremely dangerous and it is protected by laws. So, but somebody is misused, it's done. So, because of that, these are very valid point, right? The assumptions you need to put. Test data sharing from Prod will might have legal problems. So you assume will not have legal problems, something like those are assumptions. But some problems arise, then leadership might have to enter and resolve that. Figure it out at least three assumptions, right? At least you need to find out three assumptions. Think yourself, figure it out. So, right, I think that's your work, right? Because I am not telling all these assumptions, then your life will be easy, right? You don't have anything to feel it. Okay. So, I think that's all about how to do this assignment. It's a very straightforward, very easy one. Mm, anything you want to clarify? All good? It's silent. Okay, I hope everything is perfect and you can submit it on time, right? If you have any questions to submit this again, ask. So I think I can further deep dive. All good. Font types and font sizes. Yeah, it's like this. Those organize most in real world, organization will define some of the font sizes, right? Uh, I think here for the headings and all those things, I already defined some sizes. I think you can keep it, don't change it. But the content, I think you can go for appropriate font, but don't not for a uh, funny or that funky text, right? You should have a maybe some standard. So I use Calibri, but you can use Times New Roman or some professional, right? Or Garland or something like this one. You can use some standard font size, but it has to be standard. You can't use like this, right? Or you can't use like this kind of fonts, right? So then you have to be professional. Yes. You can use Times New Roman, that's okay, but you can't use these kind of fonts. So those will be also valid because that's your understanding. Right? If you are doing a professional document, you have to use a professional word, fonts, right? It's not for your advertisement or it's not for your funny items or something like that. So it has to be very professional. You can't use emojis or something like that, right? It's very clear. So don't think about putting even emojis, right? That's why I said it should be black and white, grayscale, right? No colors, nothing. Where it has to be very professional. So you can only if you want, you can use bullet point or something like that, but don't even bullet points. I think I know there are various bullet points you can use, but don't put it fancy bullet type points, right? So that is unprofessional. And this is a very professional document that you were able to get the sign off from in real world, sign off from all the stakeholders, maybe your client, your CEO, your head of department, I don't know, various senior people has to review and sign off. Then it has to be very professional document. Right? So don't make it fancy one. That's why I ask always to make it grayscale. Make sure you remove all these colors and make it grayscale. And fonts has to be no standard fonts. There's no such standard, but it has organization might have different standard. But you here in this case you can have it a professional font, right? And size. Rather making very large or very small, those are unprofessional, right? Unprofessional stuff. Yeah, that's okay. Having multi-font font fine has to be professional, right? So that's has to be professional. It's your call to think which fonts are professional and which fonts are not unprofessional, right? Okay, anything else? Any other questions? I know I took you a late our time, unfortunately, but next week onwards we are going to start automation part of it. So I will share a small additional exercise and reading activity. So to do it your own, because that knowledge will be required to perform our automation, right? Because of that, I will share some Python exercise. Try it your own if possible, right? So you want, right? So, and next week onwards, we will be starting the technical part of it. So I think we already got late. So let's try to catch it up somehow and cover it as for the exact content. So that's all. So if you don't have anything, we can wind up, or we can, if you have any questions, we can discuss. Hmm, it's silent. I didn't see anybody's asking anything. Hmm. Let me stop the recording, but still, if you have anything, we can discuss.